Hello and congratulations for making it to the last part of the series on the discussion of the modes of inquiry in quantitative research. So previously we have already discussed about the two categories, namely the number of contacts with the study population, and the second category is the reference period of the study. There are three research designs under the first category, and these are cross-sectional, before and after, and longitudinal study. And for the second category, we have retrospective, prospective, and retrospective prospective study designs. On to the last one. Of course, the third category, according to Kumar 2011, is the nature of investigation. How did the researcher investigate the problem? This could be divided into three study designs as well, namely experimental, non-experimental, and quasi-experimental. So for the nature of the first one, it's from the cause to establish the effects. For non-experimental, it's from the effects to trace the cause, and quasi-experimental can have both properties. Let us discuss each one of them. So, for the experimental study design, it involves the introduction of, we have another big word once more, intervention that is assumed to be the cause of change. And it also involves waiting until the intervention has produced or has been given sufficient time to produce the change. So this could be reminiscent of before and after as well, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that the categories by which Kumar divided the study designs for quantitative research could be overlapping. Going back, for experimental study design, the independent variable or the intervention, once again, okay, let me reiterate that, the intervention or the independent variable can be observed, introduced, controlled, or manipulated. The experimental study design is actually the most common study design for students. So they are assuming that something is causing the change. For example, the effects of ODL, okay, to the academic performance of this particular set of respondents. So the independent variable or the intervention that is assumed to be causing some type of change is the ODL. Okay, another one is using SPSS to promote better and faster statistical treatments. So SPSS there is the intervention or the independent variable that is believed to be causing the change, and that is something, or the variable can be that we can observe all throughout the research. So that is experimental. Meanwhile, non-experimental consists of observing a phenomenon and attempting to establish what caused it, meaning there is no intervention at all, no intervention, okay, and the independent variable cannot be observed, cannot be introduced, cannot be controlled or manipulated, as the assumed cause has already occurred. So for the first one, which is experimental, the researchers are somehow assuming that this particular intervention will be causing some type of change. But for non-experimental, it actually involves assuming, okay, that something has already caused the change, and the researcher's task is to find out what caused the change. And of course, the last study design for this category is the quasi-experimental, which some of you may find it hard to understand, but let's try to explain using 2 research scenarios later on. So for quasi-experimental, there is no control group, unlike in experimental where you have to have a control group and an experimental group. Hopefully you're aware of those 2 types of respondents. There is also no random selection in quasi-experimental, no random assignment, and or no active manipulation. So to establish, we have consulted Abraham and McDonald 2011. Somehow, quasi-experimental is similar to experimental study design because there could be a manipulation in your independent variable if a researcher wanted to study, for example, to study the impact of an educational intervention, let's say ODL, on 2 5th grade classrooms. Let's say the impact of ODL to 2 different sections in grade 5. Now, it may be disruptive to attempt to rearrange the students in an existing class by randomly reassigning them. Okay, so in that sense, you don't have to let's say we have sections A and B. You don't have to randomly reassign them, let's say based on particular classifications, say IQ levels, and so on and so forth. So if you don't reassign them, it's qualified as a quasi-experimental. Another illustration is, if you want to study the side effect of a particular medicine, a new emerging medicine, compared to a previously prescribed medication, researchers would have to use those currently taking the new medication as the treatment group, because it would be somehow unethical to randomly assign others into the treatment group and have them take a medication that may have harmful effects. So instead of using non-existent or inducing patients into having this medicine or treatment, might as well involve those who are already taking it. So in that sense, this is quasi-experimental because of the no random assignment property of quasi-experimental. So those are the 3 types of study designs under the last category, which is the nature of investigation. If there are still unclear explanations, you may definitely, number 1, consult other discussions or ebooks or any other sources, and number 2, you can always set an appointment with Miss Tan. So this has been your Chief Word Worker, Miss Tan, and I vow to mold my students into thinking individuals. Thank you and goodbye.